I like your lanyard, by the way.
Thank you.
Very themed. It's good.
Yes, well, it is
my theme is not turtles
That's
today.
okay. What is that, Deadpool?
It's Deadpool. It's always Deadpool.
Yeah, it's always Deadpool.
You know. Anyway, so whenever you guys are ready, let Ciro get situated there. All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
And
Glad to be here.
I guess since I'm talking, I'll start out with the main question is, so Earth is gone, what now?
Oh, that's inconvenient, isn't it?
Earth is gone. We're in a very beautiful spaceship, and we are floating out into the voids of space and figuring out now what do we do with ourselves. We are on I would say, season-long, or most of a season-long mission to figure out how to not just get back to Earth, but to recreate Earth before we get back to it.
All right.
And we get to do it with David Tennant.
Without spoiling.
Yes.
And I can say that, right, because they've already released that.
David Tennant, who is almost like, I've made a few of the shows now. I mean, they've all been being made for a while, but I've completed a few. And there's a cool thing that's happening where he's almost like, there's no Splinter for a while.
He's become the de facto...
He's like Pops
They're
for
Pops,
a while.
yeah.
Kind of uncle for a while.
And he is such... when Ciro and Brandon told us that David Tennant was going to be on the show, I'm not a Whovian. I don't know anything about Doctor Who. I mean, I understand what an important part it is of geek culture and how it's been around forever. And I believe he was the 10th Doctor Who. However, as a fan and an actor, I watch him in a show called Broadchurch, in which he's just wonderful. He's a terrific actor. And when we found that he jumped into it with all sorts of excitement, that he was really thrilled to be part of the Turtles, it was just thrilling. And I think that speaks really highly of what Brandon and Ciro have done, because the quality of the show is, as objectively as I can say it, undeniable. However, when you have people like David Tennant and Ron Perlman, and Zelda Williams and folks like that, whom they approach and say, absolutely, that speaks really highly of the fact that they want to do it, and it's a pretty remarkable franchise.
Yeah, Tennant was great in that a lot of times we'll cast a character and there's some adjustments that you make either in the design or through post or something to really make it kind of come together. And it does always come together really great. The David Tennant the David Tennant Fugitoid combo, like, it just kind of blew my mind. It was one of those things that just kind of came together like so perfectly.
God, it works.
Like when I saw it, I was like, holy crap.
That's the thing, is when you hear Ciro say that, he will never say it, but and I don't think it's being jaded. I think that he's been doing it a long time. So when you hear somebody like Ciro go, holy crap, that's a big deal.
Well, it's nice to work extra hard and make it, cherry on top, as opposed to making it come together. And it's great when the talent's at that level. So it was really, really pleasant. So it's just really nice.
Yeah,
very welcome.
Cool.
Well, and you guys have a lot of really good guest talent. I mean, over the
Everybody
course
is.
of the seasons, are there other new ones coming up that you can share with us?
We can
We're
talk
talking about Zelda Williams.
Yep.
Who's great. She's coming on as Mona Lisa.
Yes.
Right. We talked about Keith David's coming on
Keith David.
as he's. What's his actual alien name? It's Githraka. Githraka.
Githraka, and also...
But I call him Sal Commander, so I never say Githraka. Mona Lisa's name is Igithba.
Yeah, one of those. It's all consonants. It sounds like you're having sneezing. Lucy Lawless is going to be on the show, right?
Lucy Lawless
Which
will
is
come on. We did mention that.
I think we did mention that.
Yeah,
So-
she's great, and I'm excited about her just in general.
And they're
because
all
of
happy to be there.
And
It's
she's
so much fun.
having someone who's such a big part of the Raimi world right now.
Yeah.
Huge.
Totally. No, it's
I'm a huge Evil Dead person.
And I think was you said something in a thing that we just did a few minutes ago, which I think is important for me to say and also for the fans to hear, and that is that this is another example, that is the current iteration of TMNT is another example of shows on which I've worked that have purposely chosen not to condescend to the audience. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That it is ostensibly a kids show, but the way the cultural references, both that people that are hip would get, and even people that aren't, it doesn't matter. The fact is that these guys make a show that does not seek to lower the bar. And The same thing happened with Animaniacs. The same thing happened with Pinky and the Brain. The same thing happens with Futurama. Now, they're primetime shows, but shows that have been, and it happened with Looney Tunes, and it happened with Rocky and Bullwinkle, and the Flintstones. So regardless of whether it's an action-adventure show or a show supposedly for little boys, when you take the tack that we're making a show that is going to be entertaining and assume that people get it, it pays off. And it looks like a movie, and the stories are very well fleshed out. And all the little side things that you guys throw in, they're very subversive, cool stuff.
We throw, I don't know who's been catching half of them, but we throw some pretty crazy ones in there. I mean,
Yeah.
the other day we just threw, like, well, not the other day, but it might have aired the other day. We're like, well, they're in the Statue of Liberty. What if we put some Dr. Venkman graffiti in there? And then, like,
Venkman was here.
And then
How good is
I
that?
know,
I love that
I know
stuff.
some of the Southern California Ghostbusters
Yes.
crew guys, and the whole boards blew up.
They go
and now
nuts.
So now we have Ghostbuster Turtle fans. And,
But that stuff, those
More
little
so.
techniques.
Great.
It's sold out crossover.
yeah, but it's like, but it's, you know, you're up all night working and you're watching Ghostbusters and you just do that on a whim.
But what it does though is it sort of brings the audience in on a more personal level.
Yeah.
And
That's also
those
your-
little things,
Yeah.
those little touches, and those little tweaks make it more than just a show or a half-hour commercial to sell action figures. You can watch the show irrespective of whether you want to buy turtle toys. You can watch and go, wow, this is the progression of the show, and the serial nature of a big arc makes you want to continue to watch it, and you look for these cool little things. And when those things are designed into it, it pays off. It really does. It's impressive.
It's nice to just feel all your worlds kind of come together. It just makes the one more real world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I like the idea that Raph's watching, John Carpenter movies, like stuff
That's
like
so
that.
cool.
Because it makes you relate to Raphael more.
Absolutely.
Like,
It tells you more about him.
he's a real dude.
Yeah.
Well, I never look at these characters as the characters they are. We just go, hey, let's do John Carpenter's The Thing, and let's get our 4 actors in it. And all right, Mikey, you ready?
Yeah.
Raph, like they're just. I don't see them green. I don't see them with shells.
Right.
They're dudes.
Right.
They're cool kids. And
But again,
they're my kids.
and I have the benefit.
They're okay actors.
Yeah. I have the benefit
Decent
of
fighters.
looking back on some of that stuff as I mentioned, and I have to say now, I see a pattern, and when shows choose to go that route, they inevitably become more successful and tick all the boxes. Like, we know this franchise sells toys, we got that. But when you get the incredible reviews that you guys have gotten are just really pretty much regularly over the top. IMDb says 8.5 out of 10, or over and over and over and over again. And the continuing thread in the shows that I've had the pleasure, or the shows of which I was a fan, was that same thing, that they are they get specific and they do nuance it, and so that's why it works to me.
Well, now, you were mentioning the balance between it being a kid's show and not, and I was going to ask Ciro, how do you guys deal with skirting that edge? Because, there are episodes where the character almost says, oh, I'm going to kill you, but he doesn't say that. He says, I'm going to, do some kind of almost euphemistic thing. So how do you deal with that? And it's gotten very dark, obviously.
Very dark.
But it's still, to me, it's still a kid's show because of what Rob was talking about. So what have you run into issues with that? How do you do that in your head?
Well, I mean, I've always done that in every show I've worked on, and I've always gotten the same reaction whether I was at Cartoon Network or Disney, because I've worked on some pretty, shows that seem like franchisee, existing merchandise kind of consumer product kind of things, that where the tone's gotten kind of grim at times, like even like Teen Titans. I had a show at Disney for a while that was doing that, and people ask me the same thing, and basically it comes down to the relative stakes and the morality of the situation. I mean, if you take, we killed Splinter, and these are the gratuitous details of how that all happened. Sure, you almost seem like it's a very selfish, gratuitous, awful thing to do to a children audience. But I think when you look at it, complete within the context of the episode, there's almost a morality tale there that I think is really important for kids to understand, and it always writes itself. I think to not do it almost at times would be irresponsible. I think to say that these characters live in violence and it's just funny and cartoony. I think that's far more irresponsible than it is to show the outcome, although grim and dire, of what comes from that. I think it's, don't do this because, remember, Splinter died. People die.
Yeah.
You can die too.
Yeah. When you stab something, it dies.
I don't see all of the
And I
email
cried.
and stuff that you guys see, or that folks in marketing see. But I have to tell you, I do a lot of personal appearances and a lot of events like this. I have people coming up to me and saying, "Oh my God, I was in tears at the end of the episode," but I don't have them coming up like I did. 12 interviews this morning on radio all over the country, and call in whatever. I didn't have anybody, and I haven't had anybody call up and say, "I just want to tell you that we think the show is pretty dark and we don't let our kids watch it." Now that's a parental choice, but I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
I haven't heard. There hasn't been a lot of press where they say, "Hey, at Turtles, you're kind of really pushing it." In fact, it's been quite the opposite. Going, "Wow, we watch this with our kids, and it's better than watching Barney."
I almost poll people all the time,
Yeah.
Like,
What do you
does this scare your kids? What scared your kids? And it's always remarkable to me what scares kids. It's always like, oh, they didn't like the one with the giant hornet. Or the Pizza Face episode really upset them because they think pizza's delicious and they don't like the idea of it talking to them.
Yeah.
So it's these abstractions that bother children, not, cause effect. It's a whole
not real
different
effects,
thing.
yeah.
I mean, those are life lessons, and I think that's part of growing up, and I think it's important for kids to have. And I think, I'm a huge cartoon fan, like, of the 80s. I was just talking about this in our last thing, and it seemed like there was a little bit more of that back then, and there's been a lot of just stripping it down and making it kind of generic and kind of candy for children. And I don't think that's not going to get us anywhere.
But to go away from the darkness for a moment, can I ask, Ciro, have you been trolling the fans with promises of babies in season 6?
I don't know.
Because I saw that.
How about that?
And I want to know, is that something you would ever conceively actually do, or are you just having fun with people?
We've been talking about doing like future stories, like what happens like after the bomb, which is like a Turtles role-playing game. And like, this post-apocalyptic future where you have like Raphael now is the only survivor on the whole planet, and he's 78 or 58, and he's bristled. And does he run into a Hamato Mander baby that he offshot, with some Mona Lisa tryst? I don't know.
Nice. I like that. Why not?
Anything could happen. I'm
Cool
just
action
trying
figures.
but what really freaks me out is I started Instagram because I wanted to just have like my life. So there's no turtle stuff on my Instagram. But it's gotten to the point where like I'll do a drawing of like Jason Voorhees and it'll be like, egad, turtle babies, make 25. Leo's babies are so cute. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's a Friday the 13th drawing. Go away.
Oh no. Yeah. Oh no, and then some of the stuff that I get sent from DeviantArt.
Oh.
Holy smoke.
Don't go down that route. Don't go down that route.
Here's April Tello, and dude, oh my God, you got to talk to the Pope. That is just not okay.
How about the brother stuff's crazy.
What's that?
Well, there's all these very sensual, like dishwashing in the lair moments with like cupping and spooning. It's weird.
Dear.
I'm like,
I don't know,
want this
man.
on.
There's a lot of
very,
wacky shit out
very
there.
well done too, and it's like you could have spent your time, doing something different. Yeah, it's like I don't try to understand any of it.
But all that does to me is it can be disturbing, but all it shows to me is the depth to which this franchise has taken hold in the culture. That people think in terms of, there are a lot of people who are turtle freaks, where everything they think of their doodles are turtles, or their car is, if I had a Prius as a turtle van, what would that, everything turtles dictate. And it's as a result of it being sort of inculcated into the way they were raised, and it's now cross-generational, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. That's pretty cool. Interesting, sir.
I actually wanted to ask a question based on that. So you've been connected with the franchise for 28 years now. So could you tell us a little bit about how your relationship with the franchise and the characters in general has changed in that time?
Well, it really hasn't changed at all. My process is still the same. The thing that's changed is the way that we record things and the way certainly that it looks. I mean, the original show was a traditional 2D show, and frankly, when I go back and watch it, my son's going to kill me for this, but I watch a lot of the episodes and I think, oh my God, that was awful. The animation. Not every episode, but it started to get like Donatello's mask would be, green instead of
There's all
purple.
these weeping people in the factory in China right now.
That's right. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but
No, Rob hates my work.
no, but it was just like, and you think, you guys, you've done 100 of these. You know that Raphael's mask is red and it's purple in this episode. Or the wrong turtle voice is coming out of whatever. However, the opportunity for 25 years later, thanks to Ciro and Brandon, to get another ride in the turtle van, I have to tell you that I was almost a victim of my own ageism, because it didn't occur to me. I'm not a celebrity talent. I don't walk around and people say, oh, you're so-and-so. So I go to work every day and I go home, but I forget that people really do pay attention. And so it didn't occur to me that the people making this latest iteration of the show grew up watching everything I did. So when they said, would you like to read for Donatello? I said, absolutely, but I'm 55 years old. And it didn't bother them. I was the one that had a problem with it because I thought, well, they can't possibly. So it was a great lesson for me. But to see the show continue at arguably as popular, if not more popular now than it's ever been. And again, the fact that people and your age and a bit older who have kids, they're crazy about it. What a cool thing to be able to share that with your children and have a ball, I mean, my kid came along, fortunately, when we could watch Sesame Street and Big Bird and the Muppets. If I'd had to watch Teletubbies and Barney, I'd have shoved a gun in my mouth. So if you're going to watch stuff, you might as well watch stuff that you dig, right?
Kids these days clearly aren't the same as like when we were younger. Is there a specific way that you try to like appeal to those kids as opposed to when the show was first on?
I don't think about it too much, because if I tried to wonder what they're into now, I think I would just kind of freeze up. So I just kind of really think about what I liked as a kid and what I think, because I'm old now, older. I'm not a kid.
Try me a river.
I have
old now.
I have a little hindsight wisdom, on all of it, and going, There's just, like we were talking earlier about, like, how do we deal with the violence level and the stakes in the show, and it's all done with that kind of education that I've had growing up and knowing what I think this set of things that kids should have that they're gleaning from a television show. So I don't think too much about what they're going through or what they're watching or what the new fad is, because I feel like all that stuff is fleeting. For me to try to just grab on to like whatever the hot thing is, I think would just be a misstep, because not just information and technology, but just like the zeitgeist is constantly changing now with social media, that I can't really hold on to one thing. If I do that, we'd be airing an episode this week, just with the way production works and the delay of conceit to completion. We'd be doing like the Macarena or something. or Psy. What was that Psy song?
Oh yeah.
Gangnam Time.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Gangnam Style.
Gangnam Style. There you go.
Gangnam Style Turtles would be on TV like this week.
Oh,
You don't
my
want to do
God.
that. You just want to go like timeless,
Yeah.
bigger ideas, broader ideas. A little bit more general. Yeah. Kids don't know anything.
It looks like our time is up. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
guys.
What a pleasure.
Thank you guys.